I am connecting to somebody that has a very strong ancient primordial energy, and I feel like you're being called to start to implement that energy a lot more these days. And it's interesting because your energy has been coming through the field a lot, and I mean a lot. I cannot shake this feeling. I am talking to somebody who is specifically carrying an ancient energy, someone who specifically is the embodiment of a primordial energy. And what I mean by this is that you are someone who has a very deep, strong presence. Depth follows you, depth carries you, and you are someone more than likely that has a very strong relationship with death. And I don't mean to come off so morbid so fast so quickly, because I know that we're warming up to this relationship, right? I understand that. But if you're here, it's because you know that the taboo calls you, yes, but also you're not the type to allow yourself to sink so deeply into surface level conversations. And I that's the reason why me and you can have this conversation the way that we're having it, right? Because we want to get straight to the point. I feel like you're someone that has been gifted ever since you were younger. And you knew this about yourself. You knew this. You knew it because of the way that people treated you. You knew this because of how people decided to view you and perceive you. You knew things about people that they themselves did not know or understand. And more than likely, you were someone who was so bright, so smart, so intelligent at a very early age. And I also feel that there's something about your story that's coming up, and it's been coming up a lot, and it's been resurfacing a lot. It does make sense because Mercury is currently retrograde in the sign of Cancer. So it's gonna happen, right? Specifically in regards to home, the mother, and early upbringing. And I'm saying this because there's someone here, and I'm connecting with you. This is you. I feel like your energy is so wise. Like you carry a very wise energy, and people just simply do not know how to hold that kind of depth. And ever since you were younger, you've had to fend for yourself, carry yourself. You've had to understand the world at a very early age by yourself, and you've had to mother and father yourself in ways that you shouldn't have. And I also feel that you could come from a family where your mom and your dad, they had kids early, right? Like the people in your family could have had kids very early at a very early age. I'm talking their teenage years. And somehow you were the one that decided to break that pattern. You were the one that decided to break that habit because you understood something that they did not understand. And that was how to carry themselves without the mother, without the father. And it's unfortunate, but you learned it very early. And I feel like with beings like that, it's really difficult to place them into anything. In fact, you can't place them into anything because they are, what I just heard is that you're a cosmic timekeeper. You're also a cosmic elder. And with these type of energies, they bloom late, but the wisdom that you carried was not late. You've always carried that. And I feel like a part of your upbringing, the conditioning that you went through, the conditioning, the ideologies that were forced upon you, these were things that you could not allow yourself to carry into adulthood. In fact, you more than likely have been trying to do everything you possibly could to decondition yourself, to decolonize your mind in a way that helps to bring liberation, but not only to your life, but also to others' lives. And I feel like Spirit is calling you now to start to embody this energy and start to create frameworks that can help you and your soul tribe on their path of remembrance. And I say that because there is a great awakening that is happening now. There's a great remembrance, as I want to call it, where people are starting to remember their power. People are starting to wake up from the program. They're starting to unplug from certain things. They're looking for community, and you are one of the ones that are meant to actually lead and usher in this new way of being for people who are choosing this new life, this new way of being. But the thing is that this is not something where you want to allow yourself to doubt. You don't want to doubt yourself in this part of your life. What you want to do instead is utilize the wisdom that you were born with, that you've carried since you were younger, that you felt burdened by. More than likely, you felt burdened by being the odd one out. Maybe you felt burdened because people didn't understand you. Maybe you felt burdened because you didn't understand why people didn't view the world the way that you view the world. It's because you're someone that carries truth that people are afraid to look at, and you've always been that way. And I also feel too, real quick before I move on to this next point, is that I'm talking directly to someone whose energy people called them ugly, and not necessarily because of like the way that they looked, or maybe that was so, but it's because they didn't know how to place you. And so some people like to minimize you because their perceptions are limited and their understanding is limited, and so they place you in a category that helps them understand things, and sometimes they don't know how to categorize you, and it means danger for them. And now I'm not saying this as a way to make you bypass responsibility and self accountability, because people are intuitive, but sometimes they don't know how to utilize their intellect and your intuition and see beyond the veil. And you were someone that made them see beyond the veil. You were someone that made them see the truth, not because you forced it, but because your presence required it. And that's a different thread. That is a different energy. And now you're someone that's called to utilize that energy in your workings, utilize that energy in your magic, but utilize that energy when you're interacting with people. When you go out into the world, don't worry about who's going to accept you. Don't worry about who's perceiving you. Don't worry about that. If anything, Spirit is asking you right now to utilize this energy no matter who is uncomfortable, because your presence requires resonance. It requires truth. You've known this ever since you were a child. You've known this. You've carried it. You carried this within your womb. And if you are someone without a womb, you've carried this in your inner knowing. You've carried this within you. You know that, right? No matter how you choose to identify, you carry an energy that is older than time. You carry an energy that is directly linked to source, and you hold it and you wield it. And now Spirit is asking you to implement that. And I also want to say this too about your upbringing, because this is something that has been coming through a lot in the field, is that you were someone who very early held this capacity, a high capacity for compassion, understanding, patience, and maturity. So much so to the point where it almost kind of aged you. You have a very strong Saturnian and Jupiterian energy to you. And I feel that that's the reason why people don't know how to hold your presence. They don't know how to hold space with you or for you. And I also feel like I don't want to skip over the scorpionic essence you have. You probably have a strong eighth house placement, or maybe you have an eighth house stellium. You probably are someone that has a very strong Saturnian placement. You are someone more than likely whose Saturn is aspected. Maybe Saturn and Pluto are squaring off on your chart, more than likely, right? And I also feel like you are someone that was tasked, if you will, for lack of better terms, to be a steward, not only of earth, but a steward of wisdom. You are someone that carries wisdom. That's the reason why you were born with it so early. And that's the reason why it was hard for you to get along with people. And it wasn't necessarily hard for you to get along with people. It was hard for people to get along with you, because your presence required more of themselves, and people were not ready to be themselves. And it's unfortunate, and I'm not making excuses for them, and I'm not saying this like you are better than anyone else, right? Because we're all here learning on our path of remembrance. We're all here to learn and remember. At the same time, it would be foolish of me to say that you were someone that didn't carry something old, ancient, primordial, something that was meant to not only act as a liberator, but something to help to carry people moving forward even after you're gone. And that's the reason why you were born with so much wisdom. Not very many people can hold the weight that you hold. And by weight, I mean not very many people can hold trauma and tribulation and not turn bitter. Not very many people can navigate the tumultuous aspects of their lives. Not very many people can remain poised and graceful and loving the way that you have. Not very many people can do that, not because they're wrong or because they're weak, but because they just were not born with that type of energy. They need people like you to help them so that they can go out and be great, so that they can remember that they too are powerful, and you are the one that's helping to awaken, and not just awaken, but your presence. It requires truth. And with truth, people have to see themselves. See, you made people see themselves very early. And people did not like that. So it's not the fact that they did not like you. It was the fact that when they looked at you, when they were in your presence, they were forced to see themselves beyond illusion, and they did not like what they saw. And this happened with children. This happened, when I say children, I mean that it happened with you being a young child ever since you were younger. And more than likely, you brought out the best in people, but you also shined a light on the depths. You probably shined a light on people's shadow, and they did not know how to handle that. They didn't. And that's the reason why people have to make you go away. That's the reason why they wanted to place you and box you in as not marketable. It's because you don't feed into the illusion. You don't feed into the BS. And that's the reason why it's difficult to contain. It's difficult to categorize. It's difficult to be around people who are like that. And also, I feel that the fact that Jupiter is in the sign of Leo, this is one of those things where the people who have been performing are the people that are, I don't want to say that they're failing, but I am going to say that the people who have been performing authenticity They need people like you to help them to remember. And the fact that Jupiter is going to shine a light on authenticity and expand it, people like you are needed. And it's not just for someone else's value, it's simply because you're here to help the world remember. That's the point. We're all on the path of remembrance, and your presence helps to activate that. And I feel like you doubted yourself a lot, right? And if this is not you, then this message you can skip over it. But I feel like you doubted yourself a lot. And the reason why you doubted yourself so much was because it kept you humble. You have a very humble spirit, right? I don't want to say modest, but I do feel like you do have a very humble spirit. And the reason why is because you understand that the human condition reminds us that we are not perfect, but rather we are the perfectly imperfect beings. And it's because of that that it keeps you connected to humanity, not in a way that makes you better or more superior, because we don't use, our spiritual gifts as ego fixes and shit like that. We don't do that. Excuse my French, but we don't do that here. What we do, though, is that we see ourselves, and we see ourselves through others. And it's because we see ourselves that other people, when they're in our presence, that energy bleeds into them and they don't understand it. They don't get it. And I feel like, again, this is not for this isn't to make you feel superior to anyone else. In fact, we allow this energy to bleed into our lives so very much, to the point where we know that we're not meant to gloat, because if anything, that draws us further away from our presence. And that is something that's going to be shown a lot, and especially in the spiritual community. I feel like I'm about to go on a tangent, or I really feel that, but I feel like now your presence is going to highlight the very things that people have been inauthentic about. And it's been happening since you were younger. People didn't understand it. Adults didn't understand it. But now, watch. Give it time. Give it a little bit of time, and you'll see, mark my words, you are going to go down as one of the greatest people alive who've ever lived, who's ever helped the world. And I really believe that for you. I really believe that for you. I feel like if you're coming across this, you are someone whose presence holds so much impact. And I feel like everyone's impactful, right? But I feel like you are going to be seen. I just heard the word globally. You're going to be seen globally. You are definitely going to be seen globally. And I feel like one thing that I want to tell you is that Saturn is not going to just hand you this. Pluto is not just going to hand you this. They're not going to say, oh, you're just here, so here you go. No. You have to live the experience. You have to live and be the embodiment of the wisdom. And that's why you're being called to implement that into your workings, implement that into your magic, implement that when you are conversing with someone. Speak to the God within this person, right? Speak to the part of them that you're trying to help them to remember, not through force, but just simply by you speaking. The words you use. You're probably someone who's really good with your words. You are someone who is so good with your words. People just say, you just have such a way with words. I feel so much better. I feel like I can just talk to you about anything. Why am I telling you this about myself? Yeah, I know you've heard it all. You've heard it. You've heard it. And I feel like those are indications and signs that you were someone that was meant to implement wisdom. Maybe you're meant to write a book. Maybe you're going to start a podcast. Maybe you're going to start a YouTube channel. Who knows what you're going to do? Either way it goes, I feel like I just heard something about like a bluebird or a blue jay or like a mockingbird. Okay, so this is basically indicative of you giving messages, and I'm hearing chirping. So maybe you're at a park right now listening to this message, or maybe you're out in the open, maybe you're in your garden, maybe you're somewhere around birds, but I just heard messenger birds. I feel like Spirit is wanting you to start jotting things down, because when you do that, all you do is set yourself up for success. For example, right, I'm a writer. So what I'll do is I'll use Threads, and I'll type something out on Threads, and then later I'll come back to it. Maybe it'll come out in a poem. Maybe it'll come out in the next writing piece, right? I do that as a writer. Start jotting things down and come back to it later when the energy reveals itself to you again. Sometimes it comes through as a thought, as a feeling. You write that very thing down, right? Keep a journal with you, or keep like a small little notebook. Maybe keep a notebook that's the size, I don't even have mine on me right now, but maybe get a notebook that's about this size, right? That's about this size, or maybe something smaller that you can keep with you, and jot those things down. Sometimes you'll hear words because you're probably someone who channels, right? I know that I'm someone who channels, obviously. So what I'll do is, in my own experience, is I'll start to hear things, or I'll smell them, or I'll taste them, or I'll feel them, and then I'll start writing them down, and then it becomes a poem later. or a written piece or a written reflection or maybe even a video. And there are moments where I'll do a tarot reading, as you can see in my on my page. What is this? YouTube. On my YouTube page, you'll see that I have a lot of readings. So some of those readings I do turn into poems. Why am I saying that? Because you more than likely you are someone who's called to either adapt that for yourself, or you're meant to maybe kind of peer into that to see, well, what is it like? Maybe you're a writer, right? You're meant to do something. Maybe you have a very strong Mercury placement and you're meant to utilize that to get messages across to people. And I want you to trust that, because there's something that you hold again, and it's wisdom that you can help people to navigate their own lives, to help them understand themselves. You are not meant to be someone that is meant to be in the background. People overlooked you enough because they didn't know what to do with you. Now you understand that the reason why they overlooked you was because they didn't know where to place you. You couldn't be placed, right? You couldn't be placed. Write about that. Talk about that. Be the embodiment of wisdom that people kept overlooking, because now that you're an adult, now that you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, 20s maybe. I mean, maybe you are someone who's in their early 20s. I don't really know who's listening to this. I mean, it's YouTube. But either way it goes, I want you to start jotting those things down, and I want you to build off of that. And I want you to start sharing those messages. You will thank yourself later. You're not going to thank me later. You're going to thank yourself later. Maybe you'll thank me later. I don't know. But this is about you, okay? This is about you. I really want you to trust in your words. I want you to trust in your wisdom. And I want you to remember that you have a capacity for greatness. And now it's time for you to start showing that. Let it be through your art. Maybe you're not a writer. Maybe you're a speaker. Maybe you're a performer. Maybe you're a dancer. Maybe you're a painter. Maybe you're a sculptor. Maybe you like to needle and thread. I don't know. Maybe you're a knitter. Who knows? Either way it goes, you hold wisdom. And the wisdom permeates all throughout your body, all throughout the hands, and allow it to permeate all throughout your art. That is one way that you can get messages across. But something tells me that you're here to use your words. Okay, you are here to use your words. I trust in you. I trust you. And if no one told you, I see you. I see you. I resonate with you. I resonate with you deeply. And I feel like this last point that I'm going to make, because I feel like I'm on a tangent, but this last point I'm going to make, also, by the way, I did not take notes on this video. This is coming right off the top of the dome. I am just giving you messages that I'm getting, right? What was I going to say? So I was going to say that you are more than likely someone that has a very close relationship with death. I don't mean it sounds so morbid, but I do feel like you experienced death at a very early age. And what I mean by that is that you are someone who probably seen people transition. Maybe you've seen the person that you love the most when you were a child transition, and it hurt you to your core. Okay, so I'm coming back to add a little bit more to that point, because I feel like even when you knew that that person would pass, even when you seen the person pass, there was a sudden peace that came along with the grief, if that makes sense. It's like you held grief and peace simultaneously. Peace knowing that this person would no longer suffer. Peace knowing that this person would live on, that this soul would live on. But also grief and knowing that you're going to always miss that person, right? And for a child to understand that tells me that that is a very special being. And I feel like I'm going to give you a little bit of a story time. I'm going to say that in another video, because it has everything to do with how I knew that my grandfather would pass away when I was in elementary school, because I seen it in a dream. I'll tell you about that later. But maybe you understood that this person that time was coming. And so you started to make peace with that early. For someone to have done this at a very early age, it means that you carry wisdom from lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And I know that there is these questions or debate about, oh, well, you probably don't ever really have a past life. Maybe these are future lives. Okay, no one really knows, right? But let's just say, for example, that if you do believe in incarnation, because I know that you do, if you do believe in past lives, this was something that you picked up along from a past life. You've already known it. You knew it. And that's the reason why it was easy for you to make peace with that. And I feel like that's going to also bleed into yet another video. See, the ideas are just coming. The ideas are just flowing right now. So I'm going to put a pin in those two and then we'll get back to those later. But yes, I really just wanted to come back and add those few points there because that was something that came to me as I was editing the video. It took something out of you, but somehow I feel that that traumatic experience jump started your journey. Maybe you knew that they were going to pass away before they were going to pass away. See, that's a conversation in itself because, see, that's the other aspect of intuition that people don't talk enough about. It's the fact that you see things before they happen, and sometimes they are very unfortunate. I know because I lived it. So I can speak to that. Truthfully, I can speak to it because I know what it feels like, right? And I feel like this is also going out to someone, you, who again, you have a strong relationship with death. And for some people, they experience that through widowhood. Maybe you're widowed, maybe you're not, maybe you're someone that knows widows, right? Who knows? But either way it goes, you have a strong relationship with death, and not just in people passing, but your life is transformative. You thrive in a transformative realm. Again, it's this 8th house energy. I'm picking up on someone that has a very strong 8th house energy. You cannot shake this energy at all. Maybe you're a Scorpio moon. Maybe maybe you have Mercury in Scorpio, right? I don't know. Maybe you're part of the generation that has Pluto in Scorpio. Either way it goes, you have a very strong scorpionic energy to you, but I feel like you're meant to go to hell and bring wisdom back. You are meant to go to hell and bring wisdom back. And I'm going to just say it. That is what makes you different. You can hold what other people would collapse in. It doesn't make you better. It just means that you're meant to help people who need help with that. I just heard Spirit say, start your coaching business. Start coaching. Start doing these one-on-ones. Start doing these readings. Start doing whatever it is that you can do. And also, don't let that be your only identity. You have an identity outside of poetry, right? Outside of art, outside of coaching, right? I also want to I said I was going to give you this one last thing. But I just can't help myself. I can't help myself. If you're here, it's because you vibe. Like, it's because you vibe. All right. Thank you for being patient with me because I just have so much to talk about. But anyways, yes, you truly are someone. Okay, so I had to come back to this reading, and you may hear some noise in the background, but that's because my youngest, of course, who is 4, loves to be loud, and he is unapologetic, and he will not be quiet for no one. And if you're new here, well, you will hear voices every now and then. Okay, so these are the cards that you have. Oh, the first card that you have popping out here is the Chariot. And the next card, that you have is the Moon. Okay, you have the Moon card here. Okay, so immediately as it relates to what we were just talking about, right? You being the primordial being that you are. And by primordial being, I mean that you are someone who carries codes, information, wisdom that existed well before time itself. Of course, I like to say that because what is time, right? But I feel like you hold wisdom that is older than construct, okay? And so I feel like with the Chariot, with the Moon, and also now with the 3 of Pentacles coming out here, this to me is letting me know that you are meant to help others by showing them how to navigate the unseen, but also showing them how to navigate their own shadows and confusion. And I feel like when you collaborate with people, when you start to share your wisdom and things like that, you become someone who is more trusted in not only your community, but also in your lineage. I feel like there's something very, I just heard the word matriarchal. I don't know if this is, a woman listening to this or if this is someone who identifies as such, but I do. Wow, of course I would. Of course I would see that. You have the Temperance card here. You also do have here the Hangman. And I also see here the Wheel of Fortune. Exactly. Yeah, this is definitely your time. And you also have the High Priestess. I'm not surprised to see this at all. I feel like the reason why you have these cards here is because this has everything to do with timing. This has everything to do with the fact that now is a time for you to start collaborating with other people that can help you get these messages out, but also collaborate with people who can extend your voice. I feel like you're going to start showing up as someone who has the answers, but what this means is that you only reflect back to them what they need to see and what they need to hear. And that's the power of priestess energy. Priestess energy doesn't need to force anything. It works behind the veil, it works with the unseen, it works at the altar, it works in the temple. And I feel like with the moon card coming out here as well, and with the chariot, this is where you start to understand that this is meant for you to help people navigate these unseen things. And I feel like with the temperance card here, yes, temperance is about balance, of course, but I also feel like it's about alchemy. It's about lessons. It's about you implementing and being the embodiment of wisdom that is needed to not only help you in your own life, but also to help others. And I feel like you do have this really strong transcendental, transmutative energy where you're able to take things that people would, I don't want to use morbid language, so forgive me. I just need to find the right words here. You have this energy or this ability to transform and transmute energy that is unfavorable into something positive and meaningful, not only for yourself, but also for others. I feel like you go through these death-like experiences where you feel that you experience deep, significant loss, and you're able to translate that in a way that people can understand it and digest it. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I just heard the word beacon of light. Of course I would hear that. I feel like the reason why I heard that was because you are meant to be someone who helps others tap into their own light while they're in a space of darkness. And the darkness isn't evil necessarily, but the darkness does reflect something that people have been bypassing. The darkness only reflects the light that is contained within it. And I feel like you are someone that carries it well. And reading your energy right now, like reading these cards, I really feel like now is a time for you to start understanding that this is what causes change in other people's lives. This is what helps them to remember. And with the hangman here, I feel like you definitely are seeing beyond the illusion, and you're meant to help other people see beyond the illusion. You have so many amazing gifts. Clairvoyance, like you're very clairvoyant, very clairaudient. Maybe all of your clairs are activating. They may not be used simultaneously, or maybe you experience that, right? I do feel that you are someone that really does have a way of utilizing their spiritual gifts, their spiritual talents, their intuitive psychic gifts and talents, and infusing them in your work, right? And I feel like that's the reason why, we can have this conversation, because I feel like you are someone that is so intuitively gifted. I usually do attract people that are like that, but I'm here to let you know that it's deeper than just you being intuitive. It's deeper than just you having the wisdom. For what does it mean if you're not sharing it? This has everything to do with you sharing this knowledge, sharing this wisdom, but people are going to come to you for that wisdom. And it's up to you to hold it. It's up to you to extend the wisdom. And also be very particular as to who you give your wisdom to. Be very particular as to who you allow yourself to not entangle or mingle with, but more so who you allow into your space, because not all people are for you. And it's okay for you to honor and respect that. You also may want to do a cleansing in your space. I also really want you to consider getting rid of some things, allowing people to fall out of your life, yes, but also allow the loss to come. And I say that because by loss, I don't mean that you're actually losing something. I feel like people are, however, falling out of your life, but it is for a meaningful purpose. It's for a reason. And the reason is because you are someone that is meant to have high quality, deeply intuitive, amazing, brilliant people around you, people who see better for themselves, and people who really do embody wisdom, truly. And I feel like if you do feel lost or stuck right now in this situation, I want you to take a moment to pause, take a moment to reflect, take a moment to meditate, and allow the fog to clear on its own. It's not something that you can force, right? But you can allow this energy to fizzle out and phase out in a way that allows you to center and to ground and to allow yourself to be open to wisdom. I really feel like this is time, or this is a time where you're learning how to hold the polarity, if that makes sense. You're learning how to hold opposites. You're learning how to hold extremes, and you're navigating these extremes, and you've had to navigate extremes, but now I'm seeing that you're finding a middle path. You're finding the middle way between extreme worlds. I don't know a better way to say it. I feel like if anything, now you're being called to pause. I feel like maybe you want to start, I just heard reimagine the way that you bring wisdom. I feel like you're being called to change some things up in the way that you're presenting the wisdom to people. I feel like you want to start to develop a system that's going to reflect your deeper current. Okay. Also, what I'm hearing is that you want to share the things that you went through, not necessarily for the sake of others, but in a way that honors your path. Because on your path of remembrance, you help to awaken other people. So, what better way to share to help them to wake up and remember than by sharing your own experience? I also just heard that there are some things that you create that are only for you. So, allow yourself to create that very thing that is for you. Okay. But either way it goes, I feel like these cards are really just reflecting the fact that it's time for you to now start working with people or start to set your intention, right, on working with other people who can help to bring these ideas to life with you. And also trust in your intuitive hunches, trust in your wisdom, and trust in the things that you know to be true. You may not have all the answers, but open yourself up as a channel and the right answers will come for the right people. Okay, that's really all that I have for you at the moment. I really do feel like you are someone, again, with immense power, right? And when I say primordial being, I just mean that you are someone who possesses an energy that is older than construct, that is older than, older than ideologies, older than things that have separated people, right? I feel like if anything, oh, another thing that's coming through too, how I know that you're a primordial being, and this is going to be in a different, I feel like this is going to bleed into a different video, but I feel like how I know that is because you're drawn to things of the deep and you're drawn to things that are ancient, right? Antiques could be something that you're drawn to. Snakes, I don't know why snakes always come through, but of course it would. Snakes and things like that, dragons even, right? You really do resonate deeply with these energies, but I feel like you resonate with maybe even turtles and tortoises. I know it sounds crazy, but if you know, you know, right? Like these beings live for a long time. You're drawn to things that age well. You're drawn to things. I just heard wine. It's like wine. The older it gets, the better it gets, right? I feel like you're someone. Okay, that's going to bleed into another video. We're going to stop there because I can go on and on and on. Okay, I'm going to stop. But anyways, I love you very much. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Make sure that you become a part of the Saiyonan collective by joining and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you become a part of the Saiyonan Circle. That is a space where I do dedicate more of my time to you behind the scenes in ways that I will not do so in the public. I also do have the Saiyonan Ethereum where I do handcraft spiritual essentials to help you on your path of remembrance, to also help you manifest and to expand your consciousness. Everything that you will need will be linked down below in the description box as well as in the comment section. I hope that you got what you needed out of this video. Send this to a friend, send this to a family member, send this to a community member that you believe can benefit from this, and also make sure that you save it and come back to it as well. I love you, take care, and I'll catch you in my next video.